Hey guys, so I am back from SEMA 2021, the biggest car show in the world that happens all the time. So, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to talk about the new products that were shown, and I'm going to talk about the industry. So, let's roll that intro. Hey guys, and welcome back to another Talking Mods. As you guys know, I am the CEO of Mod Bargains, and this was, I think, 18 years. Well, last year doesn't count, so it was 17 years of going to the SEMA Show, but it was a very interesting show to say the least. It was one that is very important for us as shameless plug, Mod Bargains. Again, that's our company. I have to go out there. I communicate with a lot of our vendors. I look for new suppliers. I look at products. I see what the market is shifting towards, and I try to add on new brands that make sense for you guys and that I think are valuable. Obviously, we curate most of the products on our website. So for me, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of meetings, and it is very, very relevant. And in our previous video, we showed one of the vehicles that was on display, an 850 that we got to work on. We were privileged to work on, and we worked on many different vehicles. And lots of shops across the US work on tons of vehicles that do get all the way to SEMA, which I would say is the creme de la creme of car builds. I want to go into the overall show. The overall show itself was very different than all years past. Now, it was almost had this reminiscent feeling of 2009.
SEMA 2009 may have been around 25% smaller than last year.
And right after the economy had crashed. And it was really strange because there wasn't that many people there and there were a lot of empty booths. This time people didn't show up because of the pandemic, obviously the logistics. We didn't have all the international companies coming through, so we had a lot more of the domestic companies. But I would say it was significant. It was mentioned it was 100,000, but in terms of how it felt, I would say it was closer to the 60 to like a 65% less attendance. That is significant. But the good side of all that was I could actually get from place to place and go to meetings, have valuable conversations, look at product lines, see what's actually coming out, where oftentimes I don't have that ability, and sometimes you just have to wait an hour and a half to just go, get something quick to eat, or you have to wait 15 minutes to get into the restroom. That wasn't the case this time. So I kind of appreciated that it was just more people who were there for the industry. It felt pretty safe, and that was a good thing. Now, in terms of total industry feel, what were the cars that were being shown? And every year we always say, okay, this was the year of the RWBs, the Porsche RWBs, for example, or it might have been the Z06, right? Or whatever, the C8 is what I mean. There were a lot of C8 wide bodies. That was a big one. But the car of the show that I think had the biggest draw and the biggest influence for the following year is going to be the Bronco. The Ford Bronco had lots of cars that were modified. Very surprising how quickly they got modified. Ford had a nice, huge booth where they were actually climbing it on this like man-made hill, demonstrating it. But in terms of overall, the talk of the town, the talk of the show was the Ford Bronco. That's not to say other vehicles weren't. There were some beautiful Supras. The wide-body Liberty Walk Z06s were amazing. There were all other vehicles were still, in a showing, but that was probably the new kid in town and was all the talk and the rage, and was also with the manufacturers in terms of production and the need, because the demand is through the roof. So if you do own a Ford Bronco or you have one coming, I don't see the demand easing up anytime soon. So one of the big things is that I like to check out new products that come out, and I kind of put them all in a kind of an order in my own mind of the products that actually stood out. Now there wasn't a whole lot of innovation that really impressed me, and sometimes I do get impressed with products that are available for us, and I will add them onto the site. So in the coming months, in the next 4 or 5 months at Mod Bargains, we will be adding a lot of new brands that I have picked up, products that I've picked up, especially legal ones, which are very important in our industry. There was a great thing to see where a lot of new products are now becoming legal. Companies are working on it. Manufacturers are pushing towards that. I think that was the big focus. Hey, it's going to be EPA and carb legal so that all 50 states can get it. But let's go into some of the really interesting brands. Now, honorable mention, and I'll give you guys the top 3. Honorable mention goes to AST Moton for a new coilover that they're coming out with. But they basically have taken away the external reservoir and put it in as all-in-one monotube design. It's going to be a nice kit for people, I think. That's going to be a very nice one. We will be adding it to the site almost immediately as soon as we can once it's available. But I think AST Moton, I did a review with the G80 M3, and I thought it was very impressive just on the springs. And they're very good quality on suspension. But honorable mention to them because I think they're going to they're building a really comparable, we'll say a high-end coilover here, but that one that a lot of people can afford rather than having to do build one up. So that was one of the big things that they showed at the show. Again, a lot of companies were missing. So number 3 goes to KW with the new Variant 5. Now this is super high ultra end. They just had released the Variant 4. I was surprised to see the Variant 5. This is the GT3 Motorsport, so if someone has the budget and wants to go full out, wants a GT3 level coilover that they can just plug in, not have to do this whole build in and have to custom build it and so forth, they can buy what's called the Variant 5. Pretty expensive, we're talking about $7,400, but impressive to see that it's coming out to all of us and to be available to all of us rather than just in the motorsport level. So available across the board, which will be interesting from KW. So that was the third one. Now the second one is one that had a bunch of companies releasing it, and I think it's actually going to be a very relevant product line. Now, the companies, what they've created is a dynamic wing. So I've talked about wing spoilers. A spoiler that will basically adjust accordingly. Now that could be very interesting because now you're able to control the amount of force, the downforce that you're using. Adding that onto vehicles can actually greatly, I think, affect times on the lap times. Just making sure that it's planted, you're going faster, you need it to be more planted. I think that's going to make a huge difference in performance. And it was very interesting to see multiple companies come out with it. A couple of the ones that came out with it were, one of them was Victor Racing, one of them was Wing Dynamics. They're all different levels of pricing. Pricing didn't seem to be too crazy. I'm still going to be exploring it. This is still very early on. I want to make sure that the technology is good before I recommend it. But I think this is pretty interesting technology because for us to have this on our vehicles is a really nice thing. I bet manufacturers will start doing more active wings that change accordingly rather than just one static. And I think that makes it really, really worthwhile. So I thought that was a really, really interesting one. Now, the number 1 new product that really impressed me was from a company I have never heard of. I think they're a small-time company, but I'm going to give them the recognition they deserve. It's Wolf Racing. Somebody there, an engineer there, submitted it to SEMA. These weren't the ones that won the SEMA award, so these are my personal ones. SEMA has their own that they award out there. You guys are welcome to go check out SEMA's website and you can check it out. But this is my number 1 that I thought was the most interesting. This was kind of a special charge pipe where it basically created this system that dehumidifies the moisture within the intake area. And that changes the air. So what it does is basically creates a much more dense oxygen. So a dense oxygen atom, which will increase the horsepower. And also will create a lower emission. So it would be a really good thing with the EPA, CARB. It lowers the emission, increases horsepower, all with it, basically this concept of dehumidifying the oxygen molecules within. So very interested to see what kind of numbers come out of it. Obviously this is brand new that he's come up with it, and I want to see how this gets applied across the board. Again, I think this is going to be a really, really interesting one because this is a way to get increase of horsepower in a reliable way, but it lowers the emission. Just a very, very creative new method on controlling the air by creating a much more dense oxygen molecule by dehumidifying the moisture, which is something that I guess a lot of us didn't think of. So guys, this is SEMA in a nutshell, right? I get to see the new products, I get to add them onto the site. It's a lot of fun. I get to meet a lot of awesome vendors, and you guys know who I met up with. Always happy to and enjoy it. And I did get to meet some of you guys who are fans of Talking Mods, and I appreciate that when you guys say hello. It's hard when it's just a camera, so when I get to see people in person, it's a very, very nice thing to see you guys, and I'm glad I'm helping you guys out on the decisions you guys make. Guys, if you have comments below, thoughts, or what you guys saw, if you have any questions, please put them below. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It always helps us out. And guys, I will see you on the next Talking Mods.